Welcome back to Nicholas Comic Corner Classic, Less Known Classic. This is episode number 1467 and Doubleshot number 1361. Once again, physical stuff, one Valiant trade, one Marvel trade. Valiant, this one's going to be quite interesting because, well, this guy actually had a book come out, fairly recently. I'd say, let's see here, because I think his book basically came out just not too long ago. Let's see, because they had another volume for him just released just not too long ago. No. It's not currently ongoing. No, they actually ended it just recently at issue 12. Back in March. Yes. Yeah, it didn't last very long. It was a very short volume. It was done by Tim Seeley. But this is not Tim Seeley. This is the start of Jeff Lemire's time writing this character, Bloodshot. This is the first trade of the Bloodshot Reborn series. Now, if you're curious though, was there a Bloodshot series published just before this one? The answer is yes. Yes, there was. As a matter of fact, that's where Bloodshot actually made his return, in that particular run. That run was done by Dwayne Trzynski, and it lasted for 27 issues. Though, I should point out, though, from issues 14 to 23, it was known as Bloodshot Hardcore. Yep. Yeah, I have no idea why in the world that they decided to add hardcore to the series. Yeah, hardcore is, well, it's a reimagined version of a organization that existed in the original continuity for Harbinger. Yes. And somehow, some way, they became involved with Bloodshot here, just cuz. And heck, these guys even have their own brief ongoing series. That's not a joke. They seriously had one. And it didn't last very long. No, not really. It lasted for 30 issues, which, well, that's not surprising given the time period basically it was coming out in. It was the early 90s. So, with the exception of a few books, a lot of them basically didn't last very long. Bloodshot definitely did. Bloodshot was definitely one of the few that lasted for a good period of time. This book comes off the heels of the miniseries The Valiant, where basically Bloodshot himself basically has become sort of a recluse. He basically has some post-exile, and then he starts trying to get back into the game of being Bloodshot, where he gets visited by Geomancer, Kate, despite the fact this woman is dead. Yeah, it's later this is a hallucination. And then we get the debut of a very weird character, a kiddie version of Bloodshot, who apparently doesn't want him to become the Bloodshot everybody knows. Meet? I kid you not. Blood Squirt. Yep, Blood Squirt. All he is, despite being a hallucination, he's a kid version of... He's a PG version of Bloodshot. Yep. And pretty much the best way to describe this particular line, which is called Colorado, that's basically where he is. It basically lays the groundwork for this run by Jeff Lemire, and will continue for quite some time. Yes, Jeff Lemire will become a long-running writer for this particular character for the next couple years, thus leading to the events of stuff like Bloodshot USA, which is a really good miniseries, and Bloodshot Salvation, which actually ended its time on Bloodshot. If you're curious how long this run lasted for, I believe it was 17 issues, not mistaken. Yes, I believe it was. It's kind of weird how basically they do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not exactly a very long run per se. No. It's 18 issues, plus of course you have Bloodshot USA, Bloodshot Born Zero, Bloodshot Day Off, and that's it. Yeah, there's a couple one-shots associated with this particular one. This run even had a freaking annual. Yes, an annual. Yeah, you don't hear this very often from Valiant. An actual freaking annual. And mostly put Project Rising Spirit, the organization that made Ray into Bloodshot, are coming after him again. Just cuz. Yeah, but for the start of this run, it's really good. By the way, this trade collects the first 5 issues of this 18-issue series. Yep. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. It's really good. Aside from the fact Jeff Lemire is the writer of this book, the artwork is done by Mikos Soyan, who does all 5 issues in here. Well, he does the first 4 issues, though he does the making of Bloodshot Reborn. Yes, does that little back thing of like making the first issue. The arc for issue 5 is by Raul Allen and Patricia Martin. Raul Allen was the cover of that issue, but Mako Sai, who does the cover art for this book here, I believe it's the cover for the first issue. No, it's not the first issue. It's one of the later issues. This is the actual first issue of the run. Yep. Now, I know for a fact they did attempt to launch on their Bloodshot book with that particular run by Tim Seeley. My guess is the reason why it didn't last very long, and this is just my personal theory on the matter, it's because of the Bloodshot movie. Yes, the Bloodshot movie is what caused the movie to that rather get canceled, or the fact they just didn't want it to last for a long period of time. Yeah, that's my personal guess. And unlike other trade paperbacks I've seen, where now this back cover, that's actually the cover for issue 2 of this run. Yes. Now, is this taken from one of the variant covers in here? Or I'd say probably yes. Yeah, I'd definitely say this cover right here comes from one of the variant covers. Plus, love the fact that the way they color the Bloodshot, the O in blood, the first O, it's basically kind of like it's been shot out and blood's jumping from it. It's a great looking logo. It's overall a really good book, and I get the book a 9.5 out of 10. And like all Valheim books, like I keep saying, only $9.99, which was also the same price as the WWE Network before I moved with Peacock. Well, the American version, anyways. Alright, moving on to Marvel Masterworks Amazing Spider-Man volume. I believe this is volume 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 5. This one collects issues 41 and 50 and the 3rd annual. Excuse me. Now, as far as I can tell for this, John Mia Sr. does all the artwork in here. Still part of Stan Lee's run. His run actually ends with issue 100. And basically, with the first issue in here is the debut of the Rhino. Yep, 41 is the debut of the Rhino. Now, 41-43 is a 3-parter. 42 is famous for, well, John Jameson becoming Colonel Jupiter. And the full debut of Mary J. Watson. Yep. You gotta thank John Mia Sr. for doing this. Now, Steve Ditko is technically credited for creating Mary J. Watson, but not creating her face. That, you gotta leave to John Mia Sr. Yep. And, like, at the end of issue 41, we actually had the run get captured. But, of course, well, by issue 43, he gets freed. It's actually expanded upon in the pages of Spider-Man Blue by Jeff Loeb and Tim Seeley that it was Kraven the Hunter who freed him. Yeah, he actually did make a return in here for like 2 issues, issues 47 and 48. 47, 49. Yeah, the last few issues in here is basically Return of Kraven the Hunter. Yeah, but Spider-Man Blue did reveal that particular plot thread because I think everybody was curious how the heck did Rhino escape prison? It was Kraven the Hunter. Yep. And of course, the Rhino gets defeated by having Spider-Man melt his suit. Something that becomes completely ignored by other appearances by the Rhino. Apparently, Spider-Man doesn't bother to do this at all whenever he takes on the frickin' Rhino. He just beats him up and hands him off to the police. Doesn't dissolve his suit at all. But here's the strange thing about the Rhino after this 3-parter. He does not return to Spider-Man comics after this. No, for some reason, I have no idea why the heck this is. He gets moved over to be a villain for the Hulk, of all people. Yes, the Hulk. He becomes a recurring villain for him for the next 30 years. Before eventually returning to Spider-Man. Yes, for some strange reason, Marvel thought it would be a good idea to give a Spider-Man villain like the Rhino to the Hulk. Yeah, I have no idea why the heck this is. It's particularly quite weird. Yeah, as far as I can tell, there's been no. I've never heard of the explanation for this at all. It is just weird the fact that, well, that basically that's what happened with the Rhino. Mm-hmm. And apparently his next chronological appearance is in Alpha Flight Special Number 1, part of the MSRTU, but technically his next actual publication appearance is in Incredible Hulk 104. Yeah, this I thought was kind of weird. Like, why the heck would he basically switch from fighting Spider-Man to the Hulk? Yeah, as far as I can tell, there's never been an explanation for this at all. Like, okay, he fought Spider-Man for 3 issues, and then he just pops up occasionally for the Hulk as a recurring villain, which, okay. Yeah, fights the Hulk for a long time, and eventually he does finally return to Spider-Man. In issue number, he does technically fight Spider-Man again. Like, you don't have the ultimate rematch between Spider-Man and the Rhino until, let's see, it was, let's see if I can get this right here. 9 to issue number 102. Yeah, that is the next time that basically the Rhino actually fights Spider-Man. Yeah, you're probably thinking, really? That's next time he fights Spider-Man? Yeah, but this is something I think is quite dumb. Yeah, like, why the heck would he just fight, well, of all people, why would the Rhino just fight the Hulk for all this period of time instead of fight, frickin' Spider-Man? By the way, whenever he pops up in cartoons, who does he fight? Spider-Man. Does he pop up in a non-Spider-Man cartoon? As far as I can tell, the Rhino has never popped up anything non-Spider-Man related. Nope. He never has. Yeah. Let's look at this. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. All Spider-Man for anti-appearances. Video games. All Spider-Man. Does he pop in the Hulk game? No. Not really. Yeah. I mean, his only live-action appearance date of the Rhino was an awful appearance from Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he basically running his mouth off in a very terrible-looking suit. And the extras being so stupid not to run away from a frickin' machine gun. Yep. Next came, I believe it was the annual came next. Yes. Amazing Spider-Man number 3, where Spider-Man's offered the chance to join the Avengers. He turns him down. Yep. One of a few times I can think of, basically, he offered to join the Avengers. And then eventually he requested to join the Avengers, but he joined as a reserve member of the team back in the 80s. He does become official full-time member until 2005. When Brian Michael Bendis writes the Avengers. Yep. Yeah. Basically, 44, 45, 2-part featuring Return of the Lizard. Yeah, he ended up at sea for a while, but right, they brought back the Lizard. It's been a little while. 46 is the debut of the Shocker. Yes, the Shocker. A character who a lot of the time has been Herman Schultz, though there has been one cartoon that actually did not feature him, and that was Potential Spider-Man because he had fancy name become Shocker. For reasons. Now, the neat thing about the Shocker, by the way, that's him on the cover right there. His look has never changed over the years. Nope. Though Bendis made a joke of him in the Ultimate Universe. Now, as for 48 to 49, that's a 3-parter featuring the return of Kraven Hunter and the debut of the Black Draco Vulture. Yep. This is the first of 2 times he actually became the Vulture. He actually later returned to being the Vulture after this 3-parter in the pages of Detective Spider-Man, which after this 3-parter, After that second time he was the Vulture, he was never the Vulture ever again. He popped up for a quick cameo after that in the pages of Marvel Knights Spider-Man in the Sinister 12 storyline. And that was it for him. He has not appeared since then. Yep. Well, this was an interesting three-parter. And, well, there's that. Now, 50 is quite interesting. The cover, of course, is the cover for this trade is from issue 50. It's the issue where Spider-Man hangs up the webs. Temporarily, of course, for about 2 issues. Yeah, this is the second time, basically, he's done this. Second of many, many times he has attempted to hang up the webs. And he just can't stay retired. Nope. He just throws his outfit in the garbage. And, of course, Jameson gets his hands on it. This probably was loosely adapted for Spider-Man 2, which Spider-Man does do this, though for different reasons. Eventually, of course, life goes back to normal. And then, of course, at the end of issue 50, we have debut of a brand new villain. Yes. What villain is it? Makes his debut in the last panel toward the end of issue 50. We have debut of Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin of Crime. Yep, that's his first appearance. And it is overall really interesting the fact they have Kingpin here. Mostly put, he's in a meeting with Frederick Frostwell, where Frederick Frost offers him to be his lieutenant. Kingpin says, "I am nobody's lieutenant. I am the Kingpin of Crime." Yep, that is his attitude. That sets up basically a story arc for the next few issues where Spider-Man does come in retirement to take on the freaking Kingpin of Crime. This, of course, is really good. Give this book a 10 out of 10. It's fantastic. Love it. Yep. So it's interesting, though. We get a debut of about 3 new villains. In this one, you get the debut of the Rhino, the Shocker, and the Kingpin. 3 classic Spider-Man villains. The Kingpin of Crime currently is the mayor of New York in the current continuity. Shocker is, well, he's not that big of a Spider-Man villain per se. Yes, he is a creation of Stan Lee. Oh yeah, and here's something you might find interesting. Has Marvel Comics ever attempted to kill this guy off, despite the fact he's not that big of a character as the comics? Nope, never has. Kraven, yes. Yeah, his return here just becomes part of a recurring plot thread for him to take Spider-Man's mask. That's simply just of it here. And this becomes a recurring plot up until the 1980s, where Jane the Money has killed him off in Kraven's last hunt. Of course, he stayed dead for a pretty good period of time, about 22 years, until he was brought back in Grim Hunt. Stayed alive for 10 years, avoiding Spider-Man, of course, avoiding other people, and then he commits suicide. In an expensive story arc. Yep. And he's by far the only Steve Ditko, Stan Lee Steve Ditko characters created by Stan Lee Steve Ditko who actually is currently dead, because, well, recently, as revealed in the second and most recent issue released for the most recently released Amazing Spider-Man, they brought back Electro. Yep, after he'd been dead for 5 years. Yep, he'd been dead for 5 years, and now he's back. And just prior to that, Marvel brought back Flash Thompson, who a lot of people, including myself, felt as though that it was a mistake to kill off him, given the fact he's a very popular supporting character for Spider-Man. Yep, and he's back, and you gotta thank Donny Cates for that. Yep, bringing back the Flash Thompson after he'd been killed off in issue 800 for Dan Slott, the Amazing Spider-Man, and the penultimate issue of his run. In my opinion, that was a smart move on the part of basically Donny Cates to revive him, and kind of nice and expensive to bring back Electro, because I think these two guys must have realized, though, yes, Slott made some mistakes during the latter part of his run, like first killing off Electro and then killing off Flash Thompson. And these two guys said, screw Dan Slott, we're bringing back these characters. But at least they waited. Well, in the case of Electro, he was dead for 5 years. He died in 2016. And Flash Thompson, 2018. Yep. But not much to say about these two trades. They're both really good. I can't wait to review the next trades, which will be interesting. Alright, that's it for this particular video. Stay tuned. Okay. Stay tuned later on for my review for for Our Realist Rebuilt the Kingdom, Case of Atlantis, and Case Closed. Okay, it's the next video. Bye.